Live.
Okay, well, we are back and getting started with our roundtable meeting for this special eZ-XPO 3.0 launch. And we are really excited to have some of these are strategic game changers and partners and customers and friends that we know each other for many years. So I know we do have other two customers and channel partners are coming on board, but anyway, we can get started right now. So let me introduce first Bob Prentice. Bob has been my friend and my customer for many years, and he is the expert in the bartering, and basically, and I will leave him to talk about all that in the next half an hour or so. And then the next guest is Les Hamasaki, and he's the I would probably call you the green tech guru, right? God, he has over 30 years experience in the green tech. He has been the commissioner at the Los Angeles airport. He's working on many exciting projects, and he would love to share with us and how they can see to use eZ-XPO to bring all the stakeholders together and be able to collaborate and connect and make things happen. So with that, let me just turn to Bob for first. So Bob, would you kind of introduce yourself as well as working kind of with me on some of the exciting things that you see in the platform?
Well, certainly, Matt, and thank you for having me here today. First of all, I just have a great desire to share with people the discoveries I've made over the last 30, 35 years of my adult life, I guess. And one of the discoveries I made, of course, early on in my life was business is a great thing to do. Be an entrepreneur, a self-employed strategy came on early in my life, and so I know nothing but business. Making profit from the sweat of my brow, I guess you might say, Matt. And so over the years being in business, I have, I guess, developed different strategies to generate money in business. And over the years, of course, we'd have, different recessions and where money would tighten up really tightly and sales would drop in business, and I'd have to get creative and innovative on how to survive in business. Survival was always an important thing to us, being self-employed, and and so with that in mind, in the early years of my business, I encountered a concept called bartering and trading, and I would barter my company's products and services for another company's products and services that I might want or need. And so if I needed a hotel room or meeting rooms at a hotel to hold my meetings, I would go to the hotel and say, I'll trade out my resources for your resources, the hotel rooms and the restaurant meals. And the hotel would say, well, what are you going to give us for that? And I would say, well, I'll train your employees on how to be better employees and deal with customers and sell more and be better leaders and managers. And then we would enter into a contract where I'd give them, like $5,000 worth of my services for $5,000 worth of their services. And we would simply exchange invoices with each other and give each other a credit on the books, supposedly, and then we would just start working that credit down that each of us had. I would provide my services to the client, let's say the hotel, and then the hotel would provide their services back to me, and we were happy. Everybody would win. I would be able to hold my meetings at the hotel and feed my client. I'd take clients to lunch and sell them on hiring me. And so it became a very kind of like an organic way to build relationships. And then this hotel would tell, the general manager at the hotel would tell other hotels about what he's doing and how he's doing with me. Well, they would then hire me for cash money. And so that's how I built my business over the years. And so I learned how to do a little bartering and trading, and then that would create new cash income for me. And so for the last 25, 30 years, that's how I've grown my business and stayed self-employed over the years. I also learned, of course, early on that I could generate revenue in my business by just giving some of myself away. And so I would do a free meeting down at the hotel, invite people to come to the meetings, and then after the meeting, they would hire me because they want my information. And so that's how I made my living, giving it away free. And I thought, well, if I'm going to give it away for free, I just as well get something if I'm still trying to, market and promote my business. So the barter just made sense to me. And so I'd go in saying, if you don't want to hire me, I'd go in asking for cash, first of all. Because when I sell, I always sell for cash. Get the cash, get the cash, get the cash. But let's say the customer really, really, really wants what I have but doesn't have the money, because a lot of people just don't have the money. Well, then I would always say, well, I'll tell you what, since you don't have the money but you want what I have, you can pay me in what you have. Well, the restaurant guy would say, well, I got extra, you can come and eat in my restaurant, or you can stay at my hotel, or I got this car, or whatever. And so then I would take whatever it is they'd give me, and then I would do my work for them, and then they'd be so happy with me, they'd just hire me for cash after that because I would make them money. And so I continued to see this happen over and over and over and over in my life for many years. And then I heard where one business could have a lot of bartering going on with hundreds of businesses. And I heard back in the 80s of a thing called a barter or a trade exchange. And so I became a member of a barter or a trade exchange where you sold your services or products to the other members in the system. They didn't give you money, but they would give you what's called a trade credit. And that trade credit would basically be like money, but you could only spend it with these other businesses, whether it be the plumber or the electrician or the house painter or whatever it is that they did. And you would then, the transactions would take place by the noise. And so the transaction would take place in the record keeping and the bookkeeping of the trade exchange, but it would be just simple credits exchanging and taking place. And so I was so impressed with that economic strategy that I ended up ultimately buying a couple of these trade exchanges back in the 80s and facilitating and helping a lot of other businesses barter and trade also, saving their cash for what they absolutely needed to spend their cash money on. So then over the years, I learned that there's over 400 of these trade exchanges around the United States. And then over the last 25, 30 years, basically, I became a kind of a alternative economies kind of a guy. Obviously, we got to have cash. We work here in the USA. Everybody accepts it. It's a pretty fluid way of doing business. But, of course, everything's changed with the Internet and technology. And, of course, now you have Bitcoins and all the cryptocurrencies that are out there. You have all kinds of different banking currencies. Even now the community currencies, the Itatha dollars, the Berkshires, the entire community currencies are being developed all over the United States, and they have been ever since they're in the depressions in the 30s. And so I started working with the communities, with their community currencies, exchanges, trade exchanges, with their memberships, and ultimately it all evolved into a radio show that I have that's every Saturday morning called Bartertown Radio. and you'd find out more about that at bartertownradio.com. And the radio show is designed to pull together the entire world in understanding and helping them educate the masses that you don't have to only use the government-issued currencies, but you have options that actually you can print your own currency. You could have Les dollars or Matt dollars or Bob dollars, just like Target has their gift cards or Walmart has their gift cards. They're just creating their own currencies. And people don't understand they have the power to do that, but it's basically everybody in the masses in the U.S. has been dumbed down by the government schools and education system to not know of any other options. But people, there are options to just Federal Reserve notes. And so I teach and share and communicate and help people understand the power of barter and trade, alternative economies. And so my goal is to use the eZ-XPO platform to introduce to the trade exchanges in the U.S. and around the world that you could have a barter fair or a barter expo with your members. Let's say I'm talking now with a trade exchange in Nashville and one in St. Louis that I've targeted that I think would be great prospects for the eZ-XPO to have virtual barter fairs. Just like in the old days, the fur trappers and the fur traders would come to the fort and trade their furs for their muskets and their bullets, you know, a barter fair, so to speak. And so I believe having virtual barter fairs is the way for the Trade Expo to be a great resource to businesses, communities, and organizations to collaborate in one place with you know, one focused goal or objective. And so that's kind of how I see the barter fitting, Matt. Maybe you have some questions, or Les has some questions. I'd be happy to. I could talk for 1,000 hours about this subject.
Hey, Bob. Well, thanks for a great introduction. So now, I'm sure the audience has a common question about how this is going to be different from, let's say, somebody doing a small business expo for the local chamber of commerce.
Well, I guess how I would visualize this, one way that it could work is let's just say take the barter trade exchange in St. Louis, and let's just say they have 200 members. Ardell has 200 members down there. She could set up, and I'm thinking right now, you know, yes, it's nice to get together face to face, and because that's when real bartering and trading. See, bartering and trading in the old days was you got to know the person, you shook hands, you know, there was that human connection of old, and that, of course, is so far gone anymore. It's, you know, that's where trust is built, and so I'm seeing that down the road, as we're doing more virtual expos and virtual events, that could bring, especially where there's geographic boundaries or, you know, people spread across great territories, the more potential collaboration that could happen within the expo, I think, would be great. And you know, even just the concept of the water cooler, people need to get together and talk in an informal way, and you know, just have a lot of fun with it. And so that's the mission that I see down the road and using it. So I'm new, just getting to know it this last week, and so I'm eager to see the potential.
Okay, great, Bob. And we're going to be working very closely on make that happen. All right, so let me turn over to Les. Les, can you share with the team and the audience about some of the exciting projects you're working on?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I think in terms of piggybacking on Bob's barter and trade, this is something that can fit into what we have right now, is a program in Little Tokyo and downtown to really have people to grow their own food in these tower gardens and create entrepreneurs to become farmers in the city. Like they have programs out where they had in rural areas, gentlemen farmers. But this would be a program that will not only be water-wise, but also it'll be energy independent because we'll have solar energy powering the tower gardens, along with growing fresh vegetables like things that are not available primarily in these what we call food desert, the urban areas. And I think one of the areas that we can find with uh, what you're doing is becoming part of the a program that in the farmers market where we will have uh, people that are growing food to become part of the network. And right now, these are lower and moderate income people, primarily seniors that are living off of food stamp. That we're teaching them how to grow their things on their balcony at the tower, and they can barter the products as well as using the meager food stamp credits that they have to really purchase. So I think this barter idea could catch on very well, and it's tied in not only with individual people, but also restaurants that are doing the same thing on their roofs and restaurants to have these vertical tower gardens. And so that's one of the major projects that we think will happen primarily because of the drought that we have in California and really impacting Southern California that's built in the desert. And we are going to be in a very critical stage if we don't really concentrate in terms of coming up with new ideas of how to save water and basically come up with new ideas in terms of reducing the transportation costs of our food. And there's also the food crisis that we're facing, where things throughout the world is really being affected. And so water and food, as well as energy, are part of a strategy that we're going after. And more recently, the Metropolitan Water District allocated about $450 million to replace lawns in Southern California. And Metropolitan Water District, as you might know, is the largest wholesaler of water in the nation. They control supply 4 counties with water. And this is something that they're trying to figure out how to really reduce the water consumption. And one of the strategies was to have the lawns replaced with our tower gardens so people can really not only enjoy growing things, but also enjoy eating things and sharing it with others in the neighborhood, and maybe start their own little trade exchange for fresh vegetables. Because as we know, one of the other critical problems that we're facing with is that many of our foods are really doused with toxins and pesticides, along with these foods that are altered with genetically modified organisms. And so this is very dangerous in terms of the health of our city. And I'm on the Tom Bradley Legacy Foundation at UCLA, and we're concerned about our kids in terms of obesity and asthma. And so the only way that we can really change the habits of the people, and we know that 75% of all diseases are lifestyle choices, but the choice that we make is based on the media inundating us with all this propaganda about drinking soft drink, fast food, and junk food. And it's very difficult to really change the trajectory of our kids in terms of what they need, because they like popsicle, pop drinks, and all of their heroes are drinking promoting Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola and whatever. And so this is something that the nation is being faced with a very critical health problem. And so looking at it from the food and in terms of the health of an individual, it's you are what you eat to some degree, and that's going to be a major strategy for us. And I think in terms of bringing the people with like-minded people, we have the Urban Garden Los Angeles group that are doing things, building these tower gardens of restaurants, as well as schools, as well as homes, could create a federation that really stimulate the movement towards an urban gardening technology, because the initial urban garden in cities like Los Angeles was not practical because land cost is so expensive here, and we used to allocate plots and so forth to people. But this one here is very simple, and it was developed by in Disney World in Florida about 30 years ago. If you've been to Disney World, growing things on the tower, and now countries like Singapore have these farming factories where they have controlled environment 24/7, 365 days a year, and they're not affected by any kind of environment. And so those are kind of things that I see happening, and I write for the Inland Empire Business Review about the trends of the future. Being an urban planner, I can see this happening because of the water crisis, because of the clean energy strategies, along with the food crises that are being contaminated. So I think barter will be a very important part of this whole game, and we're located really next to the largest homeless population called Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles, where we have about 60,000 people that are homeless. It's more than the people, I mean, when you look at the state of South Dakota with 750,000 people, just imagine if you had 60,000 homeless people living on the street. That's a real crying shame. So we are working with the Skid Row people that are training people like veterans to become entrepreneurs. But one of the problems that these veterans, or anybody in Skid Row, aside from the drug and problems and so forth, they have to go through a three-year program for becoming clean and ready to be employable. But many of the employers are not employing these people because of a previous record, for drug abuse or whatever. And so I think by having them learn about growing food, providing them with an entrepreneurial skills in terms of how to grow, what to grow, and when to grow, and have a network established in terms of being able to become consultants to their local churches and schools, and also selling their products, might be a major opportunity for them. So that's essentially the program that I'm doing in the city, in downtown Los Angeles, as part of a Sustainable Union Church LA program, which is part of the Sustainable Little Tokyo program here in the city. And so we hope to capitalize on, obviously, like any business, if there's a crisis and you have a creative solution, there's tremendous opportunity. If there's no crisis about whatever, it's very difficult to start a business and survive. So I think the timing is very right, and the platform that Matt has certainly provides the opportunity for us to really create that movement on steroids. To really be,
Okay.
and become healthy. So anyway, that's my thing here.
Right, great. Well, thanks, Les. Well, we have another great guest and also one of the early adopters and game changer here, Eric Alexander. He's from New York. Eric, welcome to the kickoff 3.0 kickoff. Oh, let me just change your. Hold on a second.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go
Hello?
ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. So unfortunately, I'm in an environment where they might be a little bit noisy. I hope you guys can hear me. Hello to everyone. And basically, I'm very happy to participate. I just was listening to Les and his great vision about city planning and some solution that he has been offering. So I'm looking forward to collaborating with you, Les, and trying to make this world a better place.
So, Eric, can you share with the audience about some of the exciting projects that you are working on, like the EB5, private equity investments for the small, medium-sized company and startups?
Sure. So I'll start with the from the investment side. Monetization is a venture, it's a corporate venture firm. We invest in small and medium-sized company on vertical as a healthcare, clean tech, green tech, hospitality, and a little bit of real estate. So so therefore, we're constantly raising money, and because we need to be able to invest in those companies. So because for investors, it makes sense now that we create this network of on the EB5 side, because we've been working with some uh, investors uh, uh, and investment firm in China that are looking to place capital here in the U.S. and we're able to help them do so by creating a platform for them and also providing them with companies that make sense for them to invest into.
Well,
On the ventures, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, this is a kind of
So,
amazing business model. I heard about EB5 years ago, but kind of blended into with startup investment. That's the new thing. So that's
right.
great.
As you know, on that particular market, a lot of people complain about losing money that they invested. So we're providing a platform that kind of mitigates some of the risk. We're blending the regional center project return with the return from our portfolio. For example, uh, most portfolio will give you if you invest directly on a project, you may get maybe 1.5%, 2% return on your capital if you're EB5. But with us, we can blend the return by putting a portion of the money in our portfolio, and you're getting a minimum return of 8% on your portfolio on your investment. So that's very attractive and also very well created investment because we take great time on top of doing due diligence on those companies. Also, we have coming up a venture fair in Chicago. Uh, it's a venture health fair. It's in collaboration with the International Hospital Federation. It's going to be at the Hyatt from October 6th to the 8th. And then the last day on the 8th, we have selected about 8 companies who will be presenting to a group of investors that will have their location. So that's also going to be very exciting.
I just want to make a comment here. I mean, this is Eric. Obviously, is building out a very, very fully integrated healthcare ecosystem, and not only that, he is actually collaborating with all the innovative startups in a small, medium-sized company, but actually working with the other end of the spectrum, which is the investor side and also the I would say the buyer side, like the hospitals, administrators. And this is really when we talk about virtual business ecosystem, and that's why that he's actually going to be using our platform technology actually to build this whole healthcare ecosystem for the show coming up in October. So now you're also working with other Chamber of Commerce in South America and other areas as well, right? Eric?
Correct. You know, we're working with the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce. We're working with the Turkish Chamber of Commerce currently. Also, we're creating a platform for them right now. And uh, you know, in the past, we have already worked with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce and also the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce in New York. So we're looking to add more partners into that particular platform and be able to deliver on top of their needs, which is to be able to network and get qualified leads and be able to collaborate. So those are the things that we want to be able to provide for them.
Wow, that's really great. And how? So, can you share with the audience and how you're going to be leveraging the technology to bring everybody together in your global V Square?
Right. So the thing about Global Visco is about sharing the sharing what I call the portal, right? On top of the activities, on top of the traffic coming in there, and we have the thing that our partners tell us that is of benefit to them, exciting to them, is the fact that we have some arrangement with some major media. For example, CBS is one of them where we can bring about anywhere from 10 to 50 million impressions a month into the platform. So they're looking forward to be able to share that kind of traffic, and the fact that we are investing in so many companies that, for example, this year alone, will invest in 14 companies, and each company is bring their own what I call ecosystem into the system. So the potential for growth is tremendous, and also we have created what I call a ecosystem brain trust, where all the CEO of the companies can participate with ideas and information to be able to help everybody else grow and be successful.
You know, I'm glad you point out that made a comment on that point. In fact, tomorrow we had a roundtable meeting specific on the CEO workspace, and this is going to be really exciting for your groups that you obviously working with all the different executives at all levels, and be able to leverage the technology platform and bring all the strategic partners and channel partners together, and then really use it as a more like a workspace, collaborative workspace. So we will make sure that everybody's actually join our roundtable meeting tomorrow as well. So thanks, Eric, for participating in this roundtable. We have a special guest. She is Princess Okansi of Ghana, and she has been one of the early adopters and also game changer to really leverage the technology to make things happen and make the world better. So without further to say, let me turn over to hi, how you doing?
Matt, thank you so much. This is actually a tremendous effort. I congratulate you on this platform today. I'm inspired by the kind of work that you're doing, and it's exciting to be a part of this ecosystem. We have been using the eZ-XPO. We're looking to have actually a program that we're calling Ejumapa. Ejumapa is a Ghanaian word for decent jobs. And we came on board actually through Ebola. Initially, we are working with Matt to set up an Ebola virtual hospital when the Ebola menace broke out over here. And we will work with the University of Alberta in Canada to set up a system where doctors and healthcare workers who are afraid to go to West Africa at least can be trained on this.
Yeah, looks like there's some connection challenge over there. What I think
Expertise and African skills on what we're calling a workforce fair.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Great.
So we're looking at a workforce fair where we're going to be showcasing African skills because for many years now, we have not been part of the game and want to make sure that we are right there in the center of the game changing of technology. So, Matt, thank you very much for enabling Ghana and West Africa to be a part of this.
Well, thank you, Princess. We are really excited to have you and your team as part of this game-changing technology ecosystem. Let me
Thank
just
you. It's our pleasure.
thank you. So let me just turn over to the whole panels and how, what is the next? I'm sure everyone is really working pretty hard um, on the different projects and initiatives. Here's my question to all of you. Now that you have a kind of preview of the technology in the last 2 hours, and I see this as a ongoing revolution on how we can transform every organization to connect, collaborate, and promote. So to really get down to the, the, the execution level, I call it just expo it. You know,
Part of this.
what do you have in mind actually to get started? And I know that everyone has a lot of exciting uh, initiatives. So the question is, how how can we help to get you started, and what kind of question that you think that will really help to where we actually can get everyone, the whole ecosystem around the world. Now I'm in San Francisco Bay Area. Now we're talking to Les in Los Angeles, and obviously Bob in Midwest, and then of course Eric in New York. And then the princess in Ghana in West Africa region. So we are basically going around in full circle here. So the question here is that this is really a question that everybody is wants to do and see. You can see that this is a mini expo and mini conference. So you think about compare a webinar and a physical trade show or virtual trade show. So we are basically slice a piece of it and be able to bring everybody together and be able to offer all the strategic partners and channel partners a new venue, virtual venue, so that you can actually showcase your product and services about your organization in the virtual booth. Now, so the question is that, if you were planning to start in the next 30 days, how are you planning to start? It's kind of right, right, right. Yeah. So the we actually we are working with her team on the workforce, virtual workforce. Uh, this is another exciting area that basically this is going to be the world's first virtual workforce and virtual employer expo. And we have two different lobbies, one for the job seekers and one for the employers. And what's kind of amazing about this is that this whole it's kind of mapping the right people to the for different jobs, and because the employer looking for the perfect talent, and the job seeker is looking for the perfect employer and the job. So we're basically leveraging the core technology and map them out together in just a virtual collaborative workforce network. So the other question is for Les, is that you mentioned about some of the initiative that you are actually working on. What specific plan that you're start thinking in terms of leveraging the platform and basically help some of the help your church and also some of the initiative that you're trying to do with the platform.
Well, I think the platform gives us an opportunity because this urban farm movement is a very, still a small movement. The platform gives us a way of connecting the various people that are involved throughout the region, as well as the nation, in terms of how we can grow things vertically and without the huge consumption of water, and creating a healthy people. And so I think the premise here, at least in California, in Southern California, is that we have a water crisis, and we have food crisis that's looming globally, and we have the pollution crisis. So the platform will bring people together with like mind and really create jobs, because the future employment will be in becoming entrepreneurs. It's when you look at the changes that are occurring within the second industrial revolution, many things are being taken over by robots, and the information technology has eliminated a whole swath of middle management people. And so when you look at the demassification of our society, it's going to be localized, and 3D printing and all that kind of stuff are becoming very popular. And so this, at least from the food side, the platform provides us an opportunity to really create new entrepreneurs. And it's not going to be, like many people think, you're going to have $1 billion business kind of thing. It's really small entrepreneurs really sustaining themselves for the long run and living healthy. When you look at the whole demographics of the United States, where today we have 330 million people, and basically the people that are being retired right now, we're going to have a bubble coming up with the baby boomers retiring at about 10,000 a day, and by 2030 we'll have probably 69 million baby boomers retiring. And so this is creating a crisis right now, and the question is, how do we really survive in this difficult times, where many of them are living off of Social Security and food stamps. And so this idea of really becoming sustainable food-wise, whether it's the baby boomers and retirees, but also the homeless population, becomes an incredible opportunity and fertile ground to promote the technology. But we need a platform like eZ-XPO so that people can join in, learn online how to become, a gentleman or woman farmer in the city, and also network in terms of how to trade the product that they're growing to the local restaurants or with each other, and maximizing the food stamp so that they can survive. And so survival in the 21st century for many of these people that are on limited income is critical. And I think the same thing is true for countries like Ghana and Africa. But those are things that we need to really teach people how to survive, and to wait for big companies like aerospace companies to locate and create hundreds of jobs, forget it. It's not going to happen. At least in my thinking and becoming knowledgeable about Los Angeles, because I've been involved with over two 20-year plans for the city of Los Angeles from 1975 to 1995, and I was in charge of the Hollywood plan at that time, where the rapid transit system would go. And we also was on the planning commission under Reardon to look at creating a sustainable framework for the city from 1995 to 2015. So, and been in the solar energy business and all that kind of stuff gives me a really good handle in terms of how to really survive in this 21st century with all the things that are happening in climate change and global warming and contamination of food and all of these things that are driven by overconsumption, waste, and greed, and money. And so this is, we got to understand who's controlling the whole society, and it's these big corporations that are feeding us as pawns all of this junk food that we're eating and getting us addicted to all this stuff. So I think the framework that you have right now, eZ-XPO, provides the platform that we can collaborate and educate the people in terms of what's happening, because most of the people are living from hand to mouth, and that's really the problem. We need to be educated so that we can change the system to become more conducive to what our needs are, and not sell as a bill of goods, creating the want of sugar and all this junk food that we're faced with today. So anyway, that's kind of my thinking at this point.
Okay, well, thanks, Les. We've been working on this whole model, or actually the what called the virtual global business ecosystem, where you can have the kind of the local ecosystem with all the local merchants, and then you have another startup ecosystem, which is actually what Eric has been working on, and then you get the global trade ecosystem. And obviously,
Right.
three major hubs are not really connected at all in most cases. Only the big Fortune 500 has been probably focused on the global trade, but is not really connecting between the local startup and the global trade. So one of the things that is part of my vision is to use the technology to kind of help connect all the dots with the local business, local merchants. It could be bartering, or it could be small business, and then obviously the startup ecosystem, and that could be huge potential. Working with Eric and his team in New York with the private equity investments, it could be through EB5, or it could be any other creative crowdfunding model, and then connecting to the global trade. So this is why I see that it can happen. I think that the technology is here. I think you can see this technology can actually you can replicate this model for all this ecosystem: local business, startup, and global trade. So that way, anybody can start a business, and you can do bartering, or you can do cash through the network.
Oh, let me add something. In Africa, and my experience in Africa, I visited Uganda and met with Museveni many years ago after Clinton went for the first time to Africa, and I had a chance to talk to Museveni, President Museveni at that time, and we were trying to develop. There was a Ugandan American group that got me over there, and they thought, here at that time we were the investors coming in and solving many of their problems in Uganda. I saw Uganda as a tremendous opportunity for, because of lake and they can grow fish like tilapia, it's giants and so forth. But one of the things that they had very unique was the gorilla park. and I told the president at the time that they should create, in terms of, and visiting Gorilla Park, there was a long waiting list, and I said, well, why don't you create a cyber safari program where we would have cameras in the Gorilla Park that be beamed out to people in Tokyo or Los Angeles, and personalize that to promote the conservation of the gorillas, as well as promote them to Uganda. And that sort of went kind of blank in terms of cyber safari. But I think Africa is rich in terms of many of the things that we're interested in, and people has to know in terms of the opportunity that they have in what's happening there. And we need to use these type of technologies to bring people that you can charge them over the internet to view all the stuff, whether it's the gorillas or the wild animals or what have you, so that you have the virtual safari program that the locals can take advantage of and earn some money with the technology that's available. So this is something that could be developed to connect the world, like we're doing for business to business. But I think there might be a lot of interest in terms of in Ghana. I've never been there, but there might be some kind of things that are unique about Ghana, and why not people coming to Ghana, kind of thing. And cyber safari. Right, and you can charge people to have somebody going in with a camera or whatever to whatever bird watching or whatever, the virtual bird watching. There might be a lot of different animals that. Well, those are all things that, we have to wait for National Geographic to go out there and do the filming and all that kind of stuff. You can do it right now. You can be the African National Geographic, with Cyber Safari and membership. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting you brought it up. Actually, 247 Travel is one of our early adopters. They've been using it. Over 1,000 travel agents checking their virtual travel show. And one of the things that when I was working with the president of the company, he already thinking about a couple new virtual show in the pipeline. One of them is like a virtual vacation for wedding planners and stuff, and many others, vacations. So there are many ideas popping up. So this is one thing I can see about this platform can really help everyone to kind of think outside the box. With the technology, we can do more with less. You won't obviously you want to travel all over the map. That's a different experience. But I think this would be a great preview on everything that we can do virtually. Eric, you want to have any comments? We almost time for around noon. Eric?
Yeah, 1 second. Let me on mic. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good. Yes, so, my comment would be twofold. One, in terms of what are we doing locally. One of the events that we have coming up also is a showcase where it's about business transformation, which is transformation at the intersection of marketing and technology. And we look to get a lot of insight from that particular showcase. But we are also looking at Africa at the same time because we are global, it's in our name. And one of the things that happened is that I had a conversation a couple of days ago. I don't know if you know, this week, the World Bank is having a retreat on Washington, D.C., and I had a chance to talk to some of the top people from that organization, especially individuals who are in charge of the $1 billion health fund for Africa. And we're looking to see how we can collaborate and what we can bring to the table to enable them to better spend that money. Because currently, the World Bank spend most of their money in South Africa, and they call it investment in Africa. But places like Ghana, Uganda need investment as well. And so we're going to look into what is it that we can do, and on top of the not only Global Vsquare itself, but also the other companies that we are investing in that has technology here in the U.S. and what is it that we can take from that and export to Africa in terms of helping them do better. For example, I found out recently that most of those countries don't even have oxygen production. They still are importing oxygen for the hospital. So, if we can solve those problems locally, we're looking forward to be able to do that.
Okay, great, Eric. I'm sure that we will be hearing from you more. Bob, any comments? Any last comments?
Just thank you, Matt, for having this get together today.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me turn it on. Oh, Bob, can you? Let me just. All right. Well, anyway, we are basically pretty much finishing up for today's kickoff. Tomorrow we will have another kickoff. Basically, starting at 10 o'clock. We'll go over, kind of dive into some of the exciting features that we are working on, and this is for private only. So it's not for public. Because some of the confidential information, we want to make it private. So for all the customers and strategic partners, feel free to connect now, and then we'll go through kind of some of the exciting features that we already done for the 3.0 release. And what's next? How we can leverage the ongoing technology to help everyone to do more with less. And we also have another roundtable meeting at 11 o'clock Pacific time. Well, this time we have two executive coaches, George and Terry, and he's going to be sharing with everyone about the CEO workspace. And this is going to be really exciting, and I would strongly recommend everybody to actually attend and participate. This is going to be another big, huge, untapped market. Some of the things that we've been talking about with respect to, collaborative workspace, and this would be a perfect example how companies, organization can create a mastermind group virtually. We call it the CEO workspace. It really applies to all executives, CXO workspace, and be able to collaborate with other peers in other industries. So this is going to be really exciting. And just before I finish, there is a networking lounge, and you can actually network with people and chat, have a private chat as well. And then we are still populating the content for all the virtual booths. And what I'm planning to do is that we're going to have one virtual mini expo and expo 1 hour once a week, starting next week. The whole purpose of doing this is to really help everyone to get familiarized with the technology. And then I'm sure everyone has a lot of ideas, and I was more than happy to give me the feedback, both positive and negatives, so that we can improve, on this platform and make it better next time. So until then, I see you all tomorrow at 10 o'clock Pacific time. Thank you.
All right, my man.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Bye.